Come and get started on a new mission, a new direction, a new intention. Welcome to 5.8G Alive at Connections 50 Plus. I am Terri and Joseph Brathwaite.
And I am Jennifer Gibbons Joseph, catering to all your prospects in the third act of life.
Economic well-being, social gratification, personal fulfillment.
Join us on Wednesday at 6 p.m. on Connections 50 Plus Facebook page, YouTube channel,
and on Gael the Caribbean.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Connections 50 Plus 5.8G Live. I am Jennifer Gibbons Joseph, one of the co-creators of Connections 50 Plus. And as usual, with me this evening is my colleague.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. We halfway through January. I am Terri and Joseph Brathwaite, the other co-creator. And I can't believe how time is flying, Jennifer.
Yeah.
Oh,
you know me, they say January is a month people just always looking forward to for the January to finish. And it's really because of the payday. Because December you spend so much money and you might get paid early. So, by this time of the month, money finish.
Yeah.
And you're just all excited for the next feature.
Absolutely. Anyway, Jennifer, we start off an exciting kind of discussion and our series continues.
Yeah.
So today, what are we talking about? Because we're going back into this curious and afraid story.
Yeah, I think we will continue on that theme, curious and afraid. And again, from that talk with Dr. Rouse last week, the feedback, and it comes in different ways. You hear stories and they will say, what Dr. Rouse said is very true because in my situation, etc., etc. And I thought it would be nice, since we do not have a guest for today's show, for us to discuss more on, I would say, Terri, on stereotyping. When we age, people expect that you behave a certain way when you're at a certain age. And I say certain, age 50 and plus. So they feel if you see someone and they say they're 60, at 60 you should behave a certain way. Don't ask them when you reach 70, 80, well, you may as well just sit down in that rocking chair that they used to. Because, Terri, when you read a lot of stories and they speak about aging or they write about aging and they capture, they will show you an elderly couple either in a rocking chair or thing, but never, very rare they show you a very active couple. Is also always tend to be those who just like sitting in a rocking chair and doing nothing. So I think that's a good discussion for us to have if we want to change the conversation and change how people see us as they call, well, you're not saying the elderly again, but as older persons. I don't know what word to use now, where we changing what word they're using.
I think, Jennifer, the problem starts right there. Because this thing about aging, when you're a little baby, the baby goes from baby to toddler. Oh, you're getting big. You're going to big school. You're a teenager. You're a young man. You're a young woman. All of that is the process of aging.
Yes, and I remember Dr. Rouse mentioning that last week.
That everybody does. The problem occurs when we get to that age, because the peak of life, depending on whether you're male or female, could be in your 30s, your 40s, your 50s, or your 60s, depending on whether you're talking about your professional life, your sexual life, your adventure life. So we're really taking a lot of people's agendas, I think, when we accept certain, as I said, the mores and the norms that the media wants to push on you to categorize you.
Yeah.
So when we say you're aging, a teenager going into 20s is aging. So I think one of the first stereotypes is that after 50 or 60 especially, you suddenly get into a group called the aged. And what on earth is that? What on earth is that? You know, there are so many different personality types, activity types. I mean, in the world today, you have senior Olympics, sports models, professionals who continue practicing and doing their trade and craft till they're in their 80s, 90s. So, you know, I think we have to really, really sit down and ask ourselves, have we, because we've turned 50 or 60 or 70 or 80, decided to adopt somebody's definition of what this aged or age like fine person should be?
And that brings me, Terri, and in reading, I like to read the different articles, you know, on aging. And this, what caught me is where the I have it written, self-directed ageism, which is, I think, what you're talking about. And they said this is when you internalize a negative attitude towards aging. Yeah. All right. And that for me is what you just said there. Because even growing up, and you know, some people say, oh gosh, I want to reach that age, you know. Even when you speak and I would say, mention something about age, and I say, gosh, I'm getting old. I say, God, don't talk about old. You shouldn't say that at all because you're aging yourself. Like it is negative to even use the word for us, for us. It's negative to use the word old. You can't say elderly. And you wonder now, isn't that really that self-directed negativism? You know, you're being negative. So how do we change that? And I believe it is up to us, our cohort, to see ourselves differently from what may have been the norm before in our parents' days. And if we change the conversation and change the way we look at ourselves, then I believe others would look at us differently. And I think it starts from us.
Yeah. You know, I don't understand the problem with the word old, because at every age, there are 29-year-olds who panic at the thought of turning 30. And don't talk about you hitting the big 5-0 and yet, and those kinds of things. So what's the big deal with old? I am 61 years old. You are 52 years old. But look at me, look at my life. I am more vibrant, more active, more in tune and in touch with, I could point out plenty 40-year-olds who all, not OLD, but OLE, all. And you know,
and again, Terri, and that is because that is what they know. They expect, of course, when you say retire, and when you retire, you mean you're not in the workplace again, and like suddenly you can't offer advice, you like you lose some part of your brain at 60, you know? And with that, you have to decide, it's really your decision how you want to live your life, and if you want to buy in to that negative talk about when you reach a certain age, like you just have to give up, or you're not worth anything. And even in when we did that short survey, we got that feedback, how people feel that, okay, they're being rejected in the workplace, they're being overlooked, you know, and a lot of, they're best being given that sort of, the reaction to them is that you too old to do whatever it is. Give the young people a, yeah, that thing. Give the young people a chance, and is it a fact, Terri-Ann, and when we look at that and we're talking about stereotyping, do we give them that impression? Do we give them that reason to believe, yes, it is so?
Jennifer, I believe that there are some seniors who contribute deliberately and conscientiously to giving the other seniors a bad rap. I can have some women, some men, some young people who there are some of them that sit and stand in the way of progress. They're not wanting to learn anything. They're not curious. They're not keeping up to date with changes and trends in their industry. They're sticking with wanting it to do the old way. They still want to do PowerPoint. They still want to write a long booklet about something. They're not using WhatsApp. They're not using technical tools. And they want to criticize those who want to use productivity tools in the workplace. That is an old person who needs to get out of the way. But that person has chosen to be a rock in the river. That person is causing the people who they are blocking to think all you old people like that. But you will find in organizations, and I'm using the organizational context, I'm not even getting into the social realm.
Yes.
You will find in organizations another person who is in the 70s, who championing change and championing learning new things and introducing new technologies and so on. I think Dr. Rouse made a point last week, Jennifer, and she talked about the curious and afraid and some of the issues that may contribute it. She talked about developmental stages and your youth and stuff, but she said she said laziness. And I think where we have negative stereotyping on the elderly or older persons, I believe if we think we are the victim of ageism or we are being discriminated because of our age or whatnot, I think one of the first things we have to do is to really see, do I fit into that context? Or am I trying to cause a certain space or a certain way things are done to be adapted to my ideas, which haven't changed for 20 years? I think if we do those examinations and then we find, look, I look around everybody inside of here, it's 20. Then you have to ask yourself, honestly, is this a youth-oriented thing? And therefore, should you be there? If there's rank discrimination, all right, there's rank discrimination. There's discrimination on race, there's gender, there's sex, there's all kinds of things. But I think when we get down to it, I agree with you. We have to look at ourselves and question, why are we being negatively thought of? Why is it that we really have less to contribute? Is it that, yes, are there changes going on that I'm not keeping up to date with? I really believe we have to do an examination, because as we went through some of the things that are there, some of the concerns, you say stereotypes. And we look at life, even with the work that we are doing.
Yeah.
Sometimes the resistance we get from our cohort to ideas of going out, doing something different. We are not discriminating on age. We want to attract our cohort to a certain thing, you know, but yet you have resistance. So I want to say that we really do have to take a minute and step back. And before we jump discrimination and so on, let's take a check on what would cause someone to discriminate against us, whether we've contributed to this. And I'm not saying step back and take discrimination. I'm saying check first. Because sometimes, especially in the 2020s, people are sensitive to discrimination and so on. And very often, not very often, I want to make sure that before we decide to cop out because we don't feel welcome in a place, that we're not excusing our own, as Dr. Ross said, laziness, to change, to learn something new, that is be curious, or covering our fear of whatever.
Terri, and I totally believe we on a different stage, and we need to embrace that, be aware of that. We are not on the same stage as our parents who, when they were our age. All right? This is different. This is different. And if we agree that is different, then we also have to agree that the way we behave and our expectations need to be changed. So for instance, okay, my mom will be 91 this month.
Your mother is not going to be 91.
I'm sorry, 101, 101. I'm saying 91. She should only hear me. 101. And she has a new caregiver. And speaking with the caregiver, she said, wow, your mother is so good for 101. She's always like this. And I'm saying yes, because she was always one, and using the term curious, always one interested in learning new things. She would always be involved in the church group activities. Outside of that, she used her skill. She sewed well and did crochet, etc. And she would volunteer at the homes to teach that. Always on the go, on the move, to make sure that she learned new things and she passed on her skills. And I don't recall her criticizing the youth in terms of saying, in my day. It is what is happening currently and how she can contribute currently. And that's the way she thing. And at 101, she's still very active as she could be for her age. And I'm saying this because we need to recognize what we want at this age, not how others see us or think we should act. So for instance, I'm going to be 71 in April. And again, I am open with age. This is my age. And this is how I want to be at this age. And again, in talking and someone say, you mustn't say age. Because when you tell people age, you will expect X, Y, and Z. No more. When we say our age, what they will expect, they may say, wow, you're either doing great for your age. It's nice to know you can do this. You are sending a positive message. Send that positive message, not the negative. Instead of saying, oh, I am 70 or 60 or 80, and at this time, my back, every part of me hurting me, or expect to be at any day be diagnosed with some type of illness, etc. It is so important for us up here in our minds to know how we want to be at this age. Yes, somebody will say, but if you're feeling sick, and no, we're not talking that. We're talking about the Jennifer, message we send to ourselves.
Jennifer, my view is if you feel you're old and you need packing up, declare it, put up a sign, I old and I need packing up, go and pack up yourself and get out the way of other people.
Yeah,
Because
but
it
I feel you're
is
making
all about, no, but
you,
it is,
let me put it this way, you're messing up our stage. We creating a stage here for down the road and you're messing us up.
and as we all
And
know,
protesting. No, 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 no.
no,
You can't on one hand talk about discrimination and you encouraging it. I want to say encouraging it. You're not showing that you can do things, that you're curious, that you are willing to try or allow the others to show you what to do and try it their way. And we're talking simple things. Technology is such, let me tell you, many of us still, a simple thing as WhatsApp, Terri, which is
Jennifer,
free.
it is no, but there are people who are intimidated by it. Now, if you are, then step away, step aside, and don't continue to malign and argue about technology. Find your own corner and write postcards and letters and let the TT Post and US Post take 4 weeks to get a letter from Port of Spain to San Fernando. But my point, and I'm not being, I really think it is all about taking responsibility, because when we look at the kinds of things people complain about, what is it? I can't use my phone. There are phones with large fonts that allow you to see more clearly if you have a challenge with your eyes. If you have a challenge with your eyes, you can't use a phone. Even the phones that we have now, the fonts can change. You can have those fonts as big as you wish to have them or as small as you wish to have them. Adapt. You can't reject technology because of that. If you find it difficult to use all the features of a computer or whatever it is, there are classes that are available. Have you registered in a class to try to learn? If you have not tried, but you've decided, this is too hard, I can't do this and I can't do that, then that's where I'm saying I have to ask the question, is the problem the fact that the world continues to move on? Would you prefer to go back and live in the 50s or in the 60s or in the 70s where so many of the conveniences we have today didn't exist? Would you prefer to go back then to live? And I think a lot of the members of our cohort who continue to complain about issues around being disadvantaged and so on. There are challenges. I'm not denying that there are challenges, but we have to look at how we face it, because every age has challenges and every age is told upfront, you've got to face it. I mean, young people are being faced with all kinds of things, and you have to face it, toughen up. Look, how come all of a sudden that advice does not apply to us? What makes us special that we can now not learn something new and not move on? It really...
Terri, I would like to, as we speak in here, just identify the most frequent complaint. let me put it. And, examine why. Examine why.
You're being ignored and you're lonely. The children not taking you on. The whole graph of loneliness.
So that, yes, a lot of people like that is loneliness. And I interpret loneliness when my age group, and when they talk about, oh gosh, I'm home alone, is that your expectations, that you had this expectation that after you leave the workplace, or those who have been in the workplace, or when you reach a certain age, that you either would have your grandchildren around, your children around, or some friends visiting you every day. That may be expectation. And if when you get that at that age, if that is an expectation and you feel you're lonely because you have no friends around you, you ask yourself prior to when you reach that age, and let's use, I am using 70. I using this my band because I can speak better for that age group. So you reach 70 and you find, okay, you know what you call the empty nesters. Your spouse or partner may have moved on, and male or female, whoever, they moved on, whether it's death, separation, or whatever is the reason.
Infirmity.
Yeah,
They're there, but
yeah.
they're not there. Mm-hmm.
Your adult children who you're hoping for some reason would have either taken you in, meaning that you move in by them, or they remain in the house with you. Their situation changed and they move on, whether they went overseas or they move in their own home. So yes, you may find yourself either alone or even have maybe two others with you, but they're not taking you on as we they say, they're not taking you on. What do you do? Many times you complain, you're lonely, you're trying to take you on, no friends visiting you. But when you check your life prior to that age, were you creating friends? You were visiting anybody? You were going anywhere? What were you doing? You know? And when you check it out, you don't have the friend circle because you never created that friend circle. Most of your time was spent on family, right? Let's admit it.
Family or promoting
Family
yourself
and work,
professionally or promoting
right? You're
yourself.
tired, you're busy, and you're always putting off that visit or that holiday because of all your reasons. Okay. So if when you check out why you may feel lonely because you need company at this stage and you don't have it, what preventing you from forming a new circle then? Because you're not looking for
Because you're
10 and
not
20
curious.
people around you.
You're not curious and you're
Yeah.
afraid. But
You're
Jennifer,
not looking for 10 and 20 people around you. You
Jennifer,
can join, and I'm not saying whatever, but they feel to the church group, if you're that way inclined, not a problem.
Lions,
Whether
Road,
you go and learn
Best Village, Library,
whatever,
school
you
board.
have things to do. The other excuse comes up, Terri, and with loneliness, it's okay, we can say this, but how are getting there? And that is just, I mean, how we're getting there. We have transport. We have free, for our age group, transport. You can decide what time you're leaving if you don't have no money to take the bus, where you're going, etc. You could arrange when you join whatever group, you could arrange for somebody to go with, somebody pick you up. Things can be done. It's not that nothing can be done. There's an easy solution to not having that transport to reach the place.
Yeah.
The other reason they find, okay, I can't go anywhere because too much crime. I'm not sending anybody out late in the night to the crime, high risk serious crime actually coming home by you. Don't care where you live. But again, I found there are too many excuses why you're lonely. And if we check ourselves really and truly, you're lonely because your expectation was suddenly friends will drop in. You know, I was thinking recently, I remembered when I moved from Port of Spain. I lived Port of Spain all my life. And I moved, up this side to the east. Somebody said, but you're going so far, nobody won't visit you. And I'm thinking, but right there, nobody visited me because I was busy. Who visited? Nobody don't visit again. Not like that. You don't drop in on anybody again. If you have some dinner or some occasion, you invite friends, they come in, but very rare you leave your house and you say, let me go visit Jennifer. It don't work so. And when I thought about it, I said, but they weren't visiting me anyway, and I'm right there. And not all my friends down there anyway. So we need to look at that loneliness. I do agree that because you're a certain age, you have to be lonely. So check out what you consider lonely. If you're in the house by yourself, then find things to do. Do things. You have plenty of things to do.
Yeah. Jennifer, I think one of the other things is in terms of perspective. And you see that that point you make. If you're in if you're in your 70s, all right, the likelihood is that your children are either in their 40s or 50s. If you had children older, they will be high 30s. You ain't going to have 20-year-old children. Well, some of you might, good for you. You had that child at 50, good for you. But most of us, our children will be in the 40s and between 40 and 50. What were you doing when you were 40 and 50? You were the peak of your career. Your children were going into secondary school or university, and your life was packed. You did not have a lot of time to spend with mommy, because remember, we always say we are the generation that got to choose what we wanted to do. We got to choose rising with the tide professionally. We got to choose travel and or change career, go and do this program, training this, training that. So while your point is correct, while you were so busy on your second act stage, having a grand time focused on me, you didn't do any investment in building a network. Or if you build a network, as we said, which is the problem on the third act stage, those networks were so tied into work and what we did for a living, or building that family that is now an empty nest. Those networks are not there for you. So you have no choice but to go out, find new networks, build new networks, make new friends. And if you choose not to do that, the result is alone or lonely. And you cannot expect your children to bring a sudden screeching halt to their lives, which they are patterning against us, and devote their time to entertaining you as though you were a child. Because I think that is what a lot of, when we look at people who sit at home and they don't go anywhere, they have no one to go, not curious and afraid is what is causing them to be locked in. And you're right, even if you don't want to go to the church groups, there are the horticultural society. Has regions where you could join clubs, you could join groups, you could join oral traditions. There are tons of choirs, there are choirs around, there are drama clubs, there are dance clubs, the chambers of commerce, if you were in business, have mentorship programs that you could go and register for. But if you don't even have the motivation to get up and become involved and learn some new skills, because you have to learn to some skills, lonely and alone will be the solution, will be your outcome.
I remember too, Terri, when client mentioned to me that she never liked going out. She much prefer be at home. Of course, the reason why she prefer be at home with the children and etc. But now they're not there. So that's again, she find herself going into depression, and might think, okay, so you never like going out, so you won't like going out now. But there are other things, as you said, you can do. And this coming back again to technology, it's just to ask the younger persons to show you certain things, and you can play your games on your phone. Even if you say, okay, I don't want a computer, I can't afford a computer, I'm not even going there. But you can do other things at home to keep you occupied.
And if you don't have to ask the young people to do nothing, you go, there are community development programs, YTEP.
Well, they don't want to go out. They don't want to socialize. They're afraid of people.
Well, then, if you're afraid of people, by definition, you will be alone and therefore lonely.
Yeah. You have to decide. You know, the other I wouldn't say complaint, but yeah, it's a complaint. It's that, okay, you know, at this age, you don't be feeling well, you know, you're getting all the different ailments you're complaining. And I am saying, okay, We all have different complaints, but it's how you manage your wellness.
First one, when
How
last you
you
went by the
manage.
doctor? When last you went for a checkup?
Yeah.
Do you know your
So
blood
don't
pressure?
blame it.
You know your
Don't blame
sugar?
it
You know your
on
weight?
age. Yeah. Don't blame it on age. Don't say, well, at this age, I can't do anything, and you're complaining. And you're complaining that the younger ones not taking you on, they're not helping you, they're not doing this. And you need to have a discussion, and that is to me very important, and that we don't do. Have a discussion with your persons in your household or your loved ones. And this is what you would like. This is the kind of support you hear from them. They may have suggestions. They may have suggestions of how they can help you or how you can help yourself, etc. But we don't do that. We tend to complain as against asking for help. And we assume that they're supposed to know what we're going through. So
How
automatically you're old, and if you're old, the children's supposed to know as an old person, this is what they're supposed to do. No, no,
you
no,
know,
no, no, no,
the
no.
problem is you get old suddenly.
Yeah,
55, 56, 57, 58, or 61, 62, 63, 64, or 66, 67, 68. You're not old. All of a sudden, 59, 60, or 64, 65, or 68, 69, all of a sudden you get old. What kind of warning signals did they get to say that you were going to suddenly change your entire outlook on life and suddenly need to be on life support, which they are supposed to give to you? You're being unfair to the people in your house who love you.
and again, I agree, and that is causing the
All this
stereotype
sudden
because
thing.
what they know is the message we send to them.
And
Yeah,
if you
and
change your
we are doing
message
the
at
same thing.
70, they will ignore you because they will not take you seriously. They just won't. And you're correct. If you don't, and this is a problem that is going on, if we don't know how to talk to ourselves, and I always try for the ones whose household is pure bacchanal, who can't, as
Yeah.
you say, start a conversation. Look, there are so many resources in our community center, but here pride comes in because you don't have the money to go to a psychiatrist or a psychologist or some kind of counselor that you may need to pay for the services. But you're not walking into any general hospital or any health center when the social worker is there to get access to the same level of support to help you figure out and see what kind of activities and programs are available that you can participate in. How many of our listeners registered for the grandparents program the Ministry of Social Development put on last year to learn technology and learn computers and all that kind of stuff? That's the question I would ask. Yes, the grandparents. How, it would be interesting to say, what was the last thing you learned?
Terry, Ann, a lot of the reason why, and I say we because I'm talking about our cohort, okay? Pride is the next reason. And I'm saying pride, if you have to use a walking stick, you don't want to go anywhere because you don't want anybody see you with a stick and ask you why you with a stick. Let me put it that way. If for some reason you had a lot of weight loss, I talk men and women. Weight loss, you're not going because you don't want anybody ask you anything. If you feel you're not looking like how your persons who you knew, you went to school with how many 10 years ago,
40, 50
looking
years ago.
all, what do you call that? False pride.
Vanity and false pride.
Right?
Vanity and false pride.
And then depending on what they're speaking on, if you feel you don't have a positive story to it, You don't want to go because you would feel if you say something, somebody will look at you. So it's a lot of false pride, I would say, why you're not attending certain things.
Yeah.
And for me, nothing wrong with going, even if you're not saying anything. And if you feel you should always prepare response. For instance, if you have any hang-ups, let's say you're walking with a kid and you feel someone will ask you a question, you prepare already how you're going to answer and leave it like that. You don't have to get into any long story, right? Is it, you had these surgery, that's it. If it's like that, it's how you respond. And I think that is it. And then you have to love yourself. This is how I am at this stage. This is how I am at this stage. And I'm going out there. I want help. If it's just help to change my mindset and have me be more positive about who I am, then yes, I'm going. So don't be afraid to step out and respond accordingly. If because yes, we have these people who are very insensitive and want to hear, they like the little bacchanal and want to hear all they don't want to hear the positive story. They want to hear the sad stories. Why you lose weight, why the children not living with you, why they ain't giving you no money, why? No, you don't, and you don't have to answer. They don't. They're
You know,
not visiting you anyway, so you don't have to
the thing
answer.
about it is if I've lost weight and I have cancer, you know, somebody, how you lose so much weight? I have cancer. Sometimes we hide something because in our head, you know, one of our respondents said a big challenge for us is that we are quietly dealing with life's disappointments and disappointments in
Yes.
ourselves. And we, because when you were, when did this dream come from? When you were 20 or 30 and you rally, and your career went where it went. But we don't know the other person's story. We know our story. And we believe we are the only one with a disappointment. We are the only one who didn't make it. And where we get that from? Oh my goodness, we watching Facebook. Did you see where they were eating dinner? Did you see where they went on vacation? Did you see how they're looking? We don't understand there's a thing called Photoshop, or you just place yourself in a thing and you'll be miserable all the time. But forget about the other person. I come back to focus on self. If you are quietly dealing with life's disappointments, then you have to come to terms that this was my dream. I tried. Probably you got financial difficulties. Probably you had medical emergencies. Probably that child didn't turn out to be the academic that you hoped the child would be. Probably your husband or your wife left you. Probably your daughter or your son had a baby with somebody that you didn't like. All kinds of things can happen. But we have in our head that these things only happening to us. Nobody else in their 70 years or 60 years of life have any negative story. And that is where the false pride starts. Because if nothing bad happened to me, how I could show up there using a walker? If I've had an accident, suppose I had an accident and I now must wear underpants, I have urinary or fecal incontinence, I'm not going to go anywhere because, oh gosh, somebody will see her wearing pampers. You'll just cut off life because you had an accident, or you had colon cancer and you got part of your colon was cut to save your life, and you have to wear an ostomy bag, and you not going anywhere because your life was saved. We really
and Terri Ann, we really have to understand at this age, many of us didn't live any perfect life. No. We all went through different stages. It's how we dealt with it then, and how we choose to live our lives now.
Yes.
under the circumstances. And we cannot compare. I cannot say Terry and live in expect and I want to live the same. No.
No, you don't
I
know
went
how
through
I got
something
to where I
completely
am. You don't
different.
know how I got to where I am, and you wouldn't want to walk my path.
So we should forget the comparing and look at what we want and move on, trying our best to live that type of life. And understand, the more we criticize, the more we put down, I talk all the time about energy. That is such negative energy. You're living a life with negative energy. And
Yeah.
if you release that, it makes a big difference.
Yeah.
And we have to, the other area that comes up a lot is that we complain about lack of respect from the youths.
You
You know, that they tend not to respect us. And we have to understand, what do you call respect? What are you looking for? How do you want them to treat you? Do you want them to treat you like an aged person now and jump at your beck and call? Is that what you want? Or is it the respect in terms of having a discussion so they will understand where you are better and you will understand where they are? You know, it's a whole different thing, because I'm telling you, I am dealing with very young grands, and when they tell me I am like, okay. They don't want to sit down in any house for me to read no stories and tell no story.
Storybook.
They want to go out. They want to
living
go
room
and ride and walk and go to the mall and things. And what I want, I really would love to sit down and just read a story. Right? I said, Granny, we don't want to hear no story. Seriously, they don't want to hear a story.
And because you
My
learn to
grandma,
read,
the
but
teacher, Mrs. Reed stories. And I have all these books to buy, right? I'm bringing them out. Just, I know those stories. Mrs. Reed these stories first in school. I want to go. They want to go for walk. They want to go to swim. They want to.
But Jennifer,
You understand? You have to understand them.
And let's get here as to one of the impacts of technology. When we were growing up, it was critical that you have reading, writing, reasoning skills. And you had to learn your timetables, you had to read.
Yeah.
What was available for reading were reading books and storybooks.
Yeah.
Jennifer, all youths now live on tablets and phones. They read more than we read every day.
All the stories on the tablet.
More, and they are taken in vocal communications, whether it be from videos, TikTok, cartoons. They are taken in a level of languaging, and therefore developing communication skills that we couldn't dream of. When you want to call somebody who is literally living in the world living in the digital world, not social media, living in the digital world, and want to go and open a book, there is nothing that would be more boring than that, because the book not even animated, nobody moves, and we're not recognizing that they're learning to read.
Really, we have to do some reality checks. So that's why I'm saying, what do you call when we're saying they're not respecting the elderly and they're not respecting, what we call respect? How do you want to be treated? Yeah. And we have to be very careful how we want to be treated.
Jennifer, I think that is part of it comes back to curious and afraid, because if for most of the even for myself, sometimes I look at young people and I say, but you're real forward. You come into a house and to me, you find the adults in the house and you, hello, good afternoon, auntie, how are you? You deal with me coming. I don't care if you're coming to see my sons. You come and deal with me first, because that is how it is done. That is how it was done in my age. But if an adult comes to visit an adult where the adult lives, whenever I show up, they duly hi auntie, whatever. And I get my auntie with me respect.
Yeah.
Sometimes there are some disrespectful young people, but there are disrespectful old people too. But sometimes we have to, I think, sometimes they don't know what should be done. And we need, if someone has come into the room and they have not said good afternoon or good morning, I think we can start it. Hi, how are you? Good morning. What's your name? And snap them back into reality, because 9 times out of 10, they'll jump, oh, shucks, I apologize. Sorry, mom's morning, or whatever it is. Very often.
And then, but Terri, it's how we do the approach, huh? It's how we do the approach.
Yes.
I'm not approaching the way that letting them know, well, they didn't even say good morning, or they didn't even say good evening, or something. Some people say, I don't know how you were brought up, I don't know how your mother will put it, what your mother will say. And so we just have to be careful what we call, I would say, how we would like to be treated. And be careful what message we are sending. I think that is so important.
Yeah.
We may not realize we sending out some negative messaging, and that's why we get in certain type of reactions to what we do. So we may sit down and we may want to just order and say, okay, at this age, I ain't getting up for that water or anything, They shout them to bring some water for you, no matter what they're doing, they must leave it and bring it, Or even some of us, you want to go somewhere and you feel they must drop you and pick you up, and we're not considering they have, their own schedule. We need to have a discussion on it.
They are 30, 14, 50-year-old adults.
Well, I am saying we're dealing with those in their, as you said, in their 40s. These are people with families,
adults
with their own lives to live. And the schedule not easier, they're under real pressure. So I'm saying, look at how we make it our demands, and we have to try to be reasonable. Because sometimes I have heard it, Terri, and say, well, you won't even do that for your mother. Your mother reached this age in life, and that sort of a response. Want to put a guilt trip on them, although these days they're not even taking us on that. But we frustrating ourselves by wanting to put a guilt trip on them,
No, there's a lot that we have to really pay attention to and take cognizance of. Now, the thing about it, this whole issue of ageism is real, just like sexism, racism, but it is discrimination for orientation, where you live, whether you're from the first world, the third world. As I heard, I can't remember the person who did the analysis, they were talking about, let's think about how we look at people, whether you're from urban or rural areas. And if you're from urban, whether you're from high, middle, low income or ghetto, if you're from the country, the town, whether you're from the north, the south, the east, Tobago, deep south, central, all kinds of biases are thrown up, and we begin we would not get into political orientation. We will not get into that, because we have so many ways by which we could slice up and dice up and justify withdrawing from society and engaging in society because they don't like me. I want to advise that we turn it around and say, isn't that we don't like them, and we're looking for reasons and excuses to just avoid and not be involved with them. And that is causing us to withdraw at a time when we need our circles, and we need new circles, because one spouse will leave the other, children will go off, grandchildren are entering secondary school or starting school and getting new friends.
They don't have time to visit her. But we were saying that we grew up where every weekend, as adults, when we left home already. we used to visit with the children to visit my parents, and many families had that custom. You know, on a Sunday, you go visit your parents, you take the children to visit your parents. And I'm saying, now my home, my daughter, they're busy, they don't have time. If I'm sitting back waiting on that Sunday visit, I'm in trouble, you know. So times has changed.
Long time Sunday
And
was
not
a
that they don't
rest.
know, and not that they don't care. They just don't have the time.
Most likely they're
You
working
know?
on a Sunday. You didn't have to work on a Sunday. So you
Yeah, yeah.
and you want
So we need to manage our expectations, and I just love the idea of us that we are the 5.8 stage, created a different stage, a stage where we're going to be happy, we're going to be active, we're going to share and support each other because we are different stages. You know, yes, we are aware, and we keep saying it, we are aware of some health challenges, financial challenges. Not that we're not aware of the challenges, but we can still live comfortable life, a fulfilled life in spite of,
Yeah,
you know,
definitely.
and it all depends on the circle that we are creating for ourselves.
Absolutely, absolutely. No, and you know, Jennifer, as we see all of this, when we draw away and we begin to point at the other person, let's always ask ourselves, what is a new thing that we're afraid to learn? Why are we not curious to find
Yeah.
out? And if it's just fear, if you don't have a reason or evidence, so once you start saying something and it is unreported speech that you can't just confirm, yes, this happened to my very good friend, it happens regularly, it was not a one-off exceptional thing.
Yeah.
And justify that this is a problem, because you do have discriminatory people who can be
Yeah.
but come on, life is not ended for us, and we are going to live long lives. We're going to go into our 90s. Can we tolerate 30, 20 years sitting down watching through the window? What is that?
Yeah. We must have an open mind. We must have an open mind, you know, and look and see ways, new ways. It's not the old way, new ways in which to do things, you know, and share. It's about sharing. You know, when I say sharing, you're talking about sharing food, you're sharing the ideas, you're sharing the time.
Get active.
You know?
Call a friend, call a neighbor, go for a drive. Just get together somebody, go catch the bus. PTSC has no your country tours. Just tell a neighbor, come, let us go and see what's going on in the pitch lake now. We'll reach back home by 3 o'clock.
Terri, anytime we have friends, it could be just 6 of us together. At the end of the day, everybody said they had such a great time.
Jennifer,
we
I'm
must
not
do
using
this.
the word friend. I'm not using the word friend, I'm saying neighbor. You will become friends. You will be friends are something, and that's another thing we have to look at. Friends are something that develops over time. A lot of us have colleagues and acquaintances that we call in friend, but once the context of that friendship ends, there's no relationship with the person. That's not a friend. That's an acquaintance. So you're living next to your neighbor. You and the neighbor take a drive, go in the mall and look at the stores, and hopefully a friendship will develop out of that.
Yeah.
And we see how it goes. So, Jennifer, this was a great start.
What I would love, and I keep asking, it would be so nice if we continue, I should say, get any feedback from you all with suggestions. And you know what? I want to go off a bit and say, send us some photos and things of you having fun, of you doing things that different. Make some suggestions, what others could do. You know, let's enjoy life.
You're behaving like somebody old people.
Oh, why not? Why we can't share post photos?
I will be continually optimistic, and you're free to share it on our Facebook pages and so on.
Yeah, not everybody would do it, but some people like doing it.
Yes.
I have found on my personal page, if I feel into touch base and want to know who is out there, I just have to post a photo. and the amount of people who touch and base, but they had no reason before. So, and that makes me feel good. I say, hey, you know, this one's still in touch, so and so still around. That's the way I do it.
Yeah.
You know, so it's all up to you, but stay connected.
Great. So next week we'll continue with our discussion. We can't not be curious and always afraid. So until next week, we're looking forward to your discussions and your comments. Bye.
Bye.
50 Plus Tribe and followers from Trinidad and Tobago and the Caribbean.
Thank you for joining us on this Connections 50 Plus 5.8G Alive show.
We hope you enjoyed the lively conversation and look forward to seeing you next week.
Don't forget to like our Facebook page and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
We really love getting your feedback. Bye for now.